Oh, buddy, we're cooking with gas now. Kevin
All right.
Thomas here. John Epps over there. We're doing the Zoom, and we got it working this time, fellas. Appreciate the feedback, letting us know that it wasn't going last time. Sorry, it took us a minute there to figure it out, but we're ready now. We're gonna restart. Love to get you guys back in here. I know Eric was in here, George was in here, Russ, a couple other guys. Appreciate y'all tuning in that first time, and hopefully you'll make it back over here for our new stream that actually has sound from John Epps, which is what people came to hear. But like we were saying last time, John, this is week 6. We've got a ton of great matchups. We've been texting all week about it. There are a lot of great football games to be played in the state of South Carolina this week.
Yeah, a good mix of region games and some non-region games.
Yeah, there is. And we've talked about it all year how with the shortened season, some of these conferences have already been decided as far as championships and who's going to playoffs and whatnot. But then you get some of the bigger ones that haven't been yet, and we're going to see some of that play out on the field here this week, and we're going to talk about a couple of those. And John, none of them are bigger than the first one on our list. The game that we were at last year, an absolute thriller back and forth between Byrnes and Dorman. Last year was over at Nixon Field and Duncan. This year, Byrnes got to travel over to Dorman. Give us some feedback on these teams, some records and whatnot. I know Byrnes hadn't played in almost a month. I think it's about 28 days due to COVID.
Yeah, and Dorman's only played 3 games themselves. And the thing, Dorman's last game was against Spartanburg, and it sounds like they were a bit rusty. So, they won 21-0, but a slow game offensively for the Cavaliers. It'll be interesting to see how much trust is Byrnes going to have when they come out for this game. It's been extremely close. This would be a fun game for Vegas to put a line on. You look at the resume here. Dorman beat Riverside 69-24. Byrnes beat them 67-26. And then the other common opponent, Spartanburg, Byrnes beat them 41-21. And as I said, Dorman beat them 21-0. So just going off of that, we've got 2 very, very evenly matched teams so far. Obviously, hoping we get something close to the thriller that we had last year. That's one of the best football games I've ever been to. That was really, really well played. Had a lot of league changes, good offense, good defense at times, good coaching, good game plans. Really what you expect in a top 5 matchup. And hopefully we get that again tomorrow.
Yeah, we had some gutsy play back and forth. I mean, there was a late 4th down touchdown score by Dorman at one point. Byrnes answers back again and again with Lawrence Scott and Rajay Harris. But one thing I've looked at, John, kind of following these teams this year, is both of them had to replace a lot on both sides of the ball. And so far, they've done a very good job of that. Byrnes having to get a new quarterback, a new running back, new defensive players on the D line, new people in the back end for them. Dorman, new quarterback, new guys out wide for them, new guys on the defensive side. Both these teams have had a lot of changes, but they just keep on rolling. Byrnes is led now by the QBs that kind of played a couple guys here. Very interested to see how they're going to come out tomorrow. Without playing in a month, who's going to be the guy? They had some Braden Blackman action earlier in the year. He's more of a runner than a passer. They got the young kid, I think Gabe Rodgers' his name. He can throw a little bit better. Doesn't have the experience Blackman does. So you wonder if they're going to play, one of those more than the other, kind of mix back and forth, or what they're going to do there. And but when you got a guy like Mac Long at running back, already set the Byrnes record for rushing as a sophomore. People forget that game 1, first game of the season, set the Byrnes record, rushing over 300 yards, beating Marcus Lattimore's record there. When you got that guy beside you, it's going to help you out a lot, no matter who's the quarterback.
No kid. And you said both of these teams had to replace a lot of key pieces from last year's teams. It's not that they just had to replace 12th graders. They had to replace Division I talent at some of those positions. We saw Rajay Harris from Byrnes had a great game for East Carolina. What was that, last week against the Navy or 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, he's had a couple weeks in a row. He's played really well for them, I think. So he's starting to get the rock more for them, and he's doing well over in Greenville, North Carolina, for sure.
Yeah, been very impressive. But yeah, this is going to be a great game to follow, to watch over there at Dorman University. It'll be quite a game.
Yeah, Dorman, the quarterback, if you haven't seen him, Zay Foster, very electric player for them. He can run, he can throw it. he's kind of an odd story. He was at Dorman, then transferred to Spartanburg for a couple of years. Now he's back at Dorman again for a senior season. Kid can run it. He can throw it. The running back, Chance Black, everybody loves him. He's going to Virginia Tech, I believe. Correct, John?
I believe that is right.
Yeah, and that defense, they don't have a ton of big names on the defensive side, but they just keep getting the job done. Last week you said they beat Spartanburg, maybe kind of a struggle, not really a struggle, but didn't blow them out necessarily. But anytime you can shut out a Mark Hodge coach team, who's a great offensive coach, we all know that, shut them out, that defense is doing something right for sure. So Dorman is playing well right now. Byrnes, I don't know what to think about, John. I'm going to tell you, I've got to lean towards Dorman. One, because they're playing at home. Two, because I don't trust the Byrnes quarterback situation right now. And then three, because Byrnes haven't played in a month. I mean, I don't know what to think about that.
Yeah. I agree. I think they seem to be about as equal as you can be. Mm-hmm. I'm going to give the slight nod to Dorman just for what you said. They've played more recently. They've played, within the last month, unlike Byrnes. It's hard to expect what kind of fluidness Byrnes will be able to come out with on Friday. So for that matter, I think Dorman by a little bit. And it'll be fun. It'll be interesting to see, does Dorman take advantage of that and get off to a hot start and kind of put Byrnes behind the 8 ball the entire night? I think for Dorman, maybe you take some chances early and try to make a couple plays early and really get them to press a little bit and question their confidence and question themselves a little bit early.
Yes, I think we're both going to go Dorman there for sure. I want to give a quick shout out to our viewers. Like I see, we got Vern in here, James in here, PD's in here, George, Kaya, Chuck, John, Eric, Russ, Logan, JD, and Rashodi. Appreciate you guys. We've got a long list of games to go through tonight. I know we saw a comment from Westside Hannah earlier. That's one we're going to pick for sure. That's a big matchup over there in Anderson County. We'll get to. If you're checking us out on Facebook, we appreciate you. Moving the Chains SC. Like, comment, share, tell all your friends. If you're on Twitter, follow us over there at Movin the Chains. Same thing on Instagram. We're on YouTube as well. Also do an audio version on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, wherever you find your stuff. We're there as well. Love to have you tune in tomorrow night as well for our recap show, kind of going through some scores and whatnot of all the football that happens tomorrow night. We'll be on probably around 10:30, 11. We'll go live with that. So love to have you tune in and kind of give us your feedback on a game that you may have gone to, because John and I obviously can't make it to all of them, especially this year with the limited attendance. So love to have all the feedback that you guys may have for us, John. Our second game here, we're going to move into maybe my favorite one of the weekend, really. And this is a team that was on our list last week for games of the week. They really showed up. They got the win, and that is Gray Collegiate. They're traveling to play Oceanside Collegiate this Friday, and it's going to be at the Citadel, John. I think that's where Oceanside Collegiate plays all their home games. So this game is going to be at the Citadel, Gray at Oceanside. Give us some records of these teams here, John.
Yeah, so both of these teams, on the other hand, have played a good bit of football, considering everything. They're both 5-0. Oceanside playing in 3A this year, Gray in 2A. But Oceanside's the number 7 team in 3A. Gray's the number 2 team in 2A. And this is, you talk about strength on strength. I didn't realize this about Oceanside until I was doing a little bit of research today. They've given up 7 points twice this year. The other 3 games, shutouts.
That's pretty impressive.
That is very impressive. And their schedule isn't the most daunting. Mm-hmm. The names you see there are not the scariest. But to do that is pretty doggone incredible. Gray, on the other hand, they have played a very tough schedule. But obviously at 5-0, they beat everybody. They beat Batesburg, Leesville, defending state champs, the Saluda Tigers, and Newberry. You line up a good team in front of Gray, they beat them. So this will be, I would say, arguably, could be their toughest opponent of the season. But they have stepped up to the challenge every single time this year.
Yeah, this is a game, too, I think both of these teams have already clinched their region championships. I know Oceanside has, and I think Gray has as well.
I would think so, too.
Batesburg and Newberry, so I'm pretty sure they have also. Rashodi says he thinks Oceanside wins a close one. That's a good pick there, John, or Rashodi. I'll tell you what, Gray has as a player that if you haven't seen him or haven't talked to him or talked about him, KZ Adams. This kid is a baller. He's just a great running back. When they played against Saluda, he went for 217 and 2 TDs. Last week against Newberry, he went for I think 219 in a touchdown and had an interception on defense. John, this kid plays both ways. Absolute animal out there. The running back Trey Robinson, very good as well. A transfer from Batesburg, Leesville. He's a good player, but that offense runs through KZ Adams behind that O-line that we mentioned last week, John. O-line averages 290 pounds for Gray Collegiate, which is huge at the high school level. So that run game is tough to stop for them. Oceanside, they've got some young guys in the backfield. I think the Kepley kid's a junior. The running back Blue, I believe, is a sophomore. This is going to be a really good, really fun ball game. Who are you leaning towards here, John?
I tell you what, I'm going to be very, very boring and say I believe the Comet. I think Oceanside wins a really close game. I think what Gray has done so far this season has been very impressive. But the way that Oceanside has beat everyone that they played, they've both showed a lot of consistency, but Oceanside just seems extremely powerful. How they're only ranked 7th in 3A, I don't understand. But I think Oceanside wins this game by a little bit, and I think it'll really help, too, that they're playing at home. This is not your typical home game, getting to play at Haygood Stadium. That's going to be probably for every single one of these kids at Gray. And correct me if I'm wrong, I'm not sure if they've played in Columbia last few years or not. But this will be the biggest stadium they've ever played in. You can talk about it's not that big. Well, it's big if you're a 17-year-old kid and you've never played in a stadium, bigger than 2A. Yep. So I think that could get in the heads a little bit on Gray and, be just an added little bit of extra detail that will help Oceanside in this one.
Yeah, and this is one I think, John, I think I'm going to disagree with you here, and that's because the run game travels and defense travels. And I think
that is correct.
Both of those. I think this may be the best game in the state this weekend, this Friday night, in all honesty. This could be last team who has the ball wins the game, in all honesty. This is going to be back and forth. I think this is a game that's going to come down to the end. I'm going to take Gray Collegiate in a close one myself.
I tell you what, and if Gray does win, that's going to be a big time for everybody else in 2A.
Mm-hmm. For sure. On to our third game now. Before we're done, I want to give a quick shout out to I see Brittany's in here, Michael's in here, Brian's in here. Thank you guys for checking us out. Our next big game is one that, if you're not from the upstate, you may not think about it as being a big game. But, John, we've done some research on these records. This is a big ball game here between Palmetto and Wren Friday night.
I didn't think it was going to be that big of a ball game until I started looking at the schedules. And then, I'm looking at the top 10 right next to me and go, wait a minute here. We got a 6 versus 10 going on here. Mm-hmm. Really, you talk about class within class outside of Byrnes Dorman. This is the only top 10 matchup in the state this week. You've got a 3-1 Wren team who their only loss was to Daniel, and I've bragged enough on Daniel already this year. To lose to that team in Central, nothing to be ashamed about there. And then Palmetto, they come to the game with an undefeated record. They beat not a ton of great teams, but their first game, they beat a very, very improved Powersville squad who we see every week is beating somebody. Mm-hmm. And also, this is a Palmetto group. They're like this year's version of Eastside. They're averaging 45 points a game. Mm-hmm. They light up the scoreboard, and I think they can give Wren everything they want. But I think Wren wins this game, though. I think Wren's a little bit better.
You mentioned that Palmetto offense. They're led by the quarterback, J.B. Altman. He's been there. I think he's a 2 or 3 year starter now. He's got a lot of experience. That obviously helps in high school if you got a guy who's been there for a couple of years. He's got some small college offers. He can really sling it for them. Wren, we've talked about several times this year, has kind of had a resurgence the last couple of years. They've had a good football team. Last year, won state, obviously. Before that, a pretty good team. But this year, they've got a good squad again, but they've really had to flip how they play. Last year was a lot of throw it around to the cherry kid from Joe Owens and whatnot. And this year, it's more of a rushing attack led by Malachi Hill. So Coach Tate's done a good job kind of getting them to buy into the new philosophy this year, I would say. I think you're right. Palmetto is a good team. I think they have not been as tested as Wren has. Looking at their schedule, they haven't played as good of teams. They haven't played a Daniel. They haven't played a BHP. I mean, you're right. They beat Powdersville, but they still haven't beat those big boys yet. This is their chance for
Yeah.
to do that. But I still think I'm going to lean to Wren. That same ratio, Eddie's picking Wren as well. I think Wren is the pick this week for me, John.
Yeah, I agree. It will be a good measuring test for Palmetto going into the playoffs here in a couple weeks. And, it'll be a good game for them to understand, okay, what do we need to work on? Because Wren's that kind of team that can expose some weaknesses a little bit that, everybody on the schedule thus far maybe hasn't done.
Exactly right. And our fourth game we have here, it's kind of a cross classification matchup. These two teams are perennially very good, always ranked towards the top of the polls in 5 and 4A, and that is Dutch Fork traveling to South Point. John, I was doing some research on these teams earlier. They're both very good. Don't get me wrong, but you may have the same thought as I do. I don't know. We haven't talked about this yet. I feel like both these teams are maybe a click down from what they have been in the past couple of years.
It's hard to say that to Dutch Fork.
Yeah.
Given what they've done, their worst game was last week, a 21-0 win over Spring Valley. When your worst game is a 3-touchdown win, it's hard to say, gosh, are they not as good as they have been? I don't know. And also, Dutch Fork, they haven't given up more than 13 in a game yet this year. I mean, they've not just been winning; they have been absolutely dominating. And South Point really has been the same. Kind of the same in 4A. Granted, their one loss is to a 5A Northwestern team. They lost 17-3 that game, but that was their worst game defensively, giving up 17 points to a pretty good 5A team. So, they both have been kind of running through their schedule this year. But I think Dutch Fork is the, version 2.0 of what South Point is. I think South Point needs to go into this game thinking, all right, let's try to make some plays. Let's understand what this game is. Let's understand who we're playing. Let's just make some plays and, hey, be aggressive, try some things, see what works, see what doesn't work. But, kind of game you can just let it go all out there and see what happens. But I don't expect them to win, and I don't expect it to be very close. But it will be a fun game to watch, given how talented both teams are.
Yeah, Dutch Fork, led by the QB Will Taylor, the Clemson commit to play some baseball and wide receiver for them. He's got 15 TDs passing. They've got a sophomore running back. The Green kid's going to be very good, I think, in the future. He's got 8 TDs on the ground, also pretty good threat receiving. 2 guys averaging about 20 yards per catch with Spencer and Williams. I mean, so that offense is loaded again. It really is. But, you just don't see the Ty Olenchuk and the Jalen Hyatt out there again, obviously. And was it last week, John, they played Spring Valley fairly close, like 21-0, like a kind of not a typical Dutch Fork win.
That's right. And Spring Valley's been a pretty good team this year, but not a team where you think would give a team like Dutch Fork a lot of heartburn. And honestly, if Dutch Fork and Spring Valley and South Point lined up, I might take South Point in that game. I think South Point might be a little bit better than Spring Valley. So if Dutch Fork doesn't come out a little bit better, a little more sharp than they did last week, this game could be close. And, if they get in a close game, who knows how they react.
And I'll tell you, John, South Point has some playmakers, but their offense is a little bit worrisome to me. I know early in the year they were trying to figure out what to do with the Omega Blake. He's the best athlete on the field no matter where he's playing. Do you put him at QB? Do you put him at wide out? What do you do? Last week against York, they kind of made a switch where they went to the Nabanye Moore full-time at quarterback, really just put Omega Blake kind of as a wide out, just got him the ball in space, really. So that, the kid played well, had over 200 yards passing last week in that win over York. So he played very well. They got the running back, Nigel Moore, who's gotten some good games from him as well. I think they may be starting to figure it out on that side of the ball about what they're going to do, not really force it to Blake as much, kind of just get him out in space, but don't have him moving positions around too much, which is probably a good thing for them. So I think South Point may be starting to kind of peak a little bit here. But like you mentioned, I just don't think – they're not on the same level as Dutch Fork, and that's no knock to them because, really nobody is.
Yeah, maybe Dorman from last year.
Exactly. So
2019
Dutch Fork is the is the pick there. Rashodi says he agrees with me that Dutch Fork wins, but he thinks it might not be quite as good as years past. Thanks for that. We got Eric and Mark Tyrell Corley tuning in. Thank you guys for that as well. John, that's the 4 games we have, that we have breakdowns on. But I want to kind of give some quick picks here in a minute as well. I want to give a quick shout out to everybody watching on Facebook, Moving the Chains SC. Like, comment, share, tell your friends. On Twitter, we're on Moving Chains. Instagram, it's Moving Chains. We're on YouTube. We have an audio-only version on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, etc. Love to have you guys tune in tomorrow night for our recap show that goes live about 10:30, 11. If you're watching our live video right now, hit the bell button to subscribe, and you'll get notification whenever we go live tomorrow night. We don't have a set time. It kind of depends on when John and I get back from the game we go to and whatnot. So we don't have a set time, but love to have you guys tune in tomorrow night for our recap show and, kind of looking forward to next weekend as well. Also talk about some Mr. Football stuff and some playoff stuff that's kind of coming into focus as well. But one more shout out. Another guy I see Pete's tuning in now as well. John, let's go through some quick picks here on a couple of games that maybe just missed being in our games of the week, but still very good football games here for this year, for this weekend. One of them, always a good game down here, kind of in this area, John. Barnwell at Bamberg Earhart. Who do you like in this one Friday night?
I'm going to go Barnwell.
Yep.
I know they've been down a little bit this year, to Barnwell standards, but Bamberg Earhart a little bit themselves. Mm-hmm. They're not quite the team that Bamberg Earhart usually trots out there. I like Barnwell by a little bit in this game.
Yeah, this is a game that I've seen a ton of talk about in our little Facebook group as well. People are getting into this one a lot. But I agree with you. I'm going to take Barnwell winning this game, the 2A team over the 1A team here. The next one, I saw P.D. Zamora, the quarterback, mentioned this one earlier. Westside Hannah. These are 2 teams, John, that we haven't talked a ton about this year. Westside just keeps on rolling, win after win after win. Hannah's been kind of bitten by the COVID bug, had a few games they couldn't play so far. Westside led by Pete Zamora at quarterback. I'm going to take Westside to get this win. Scott Early is a great coach over there, great offensive coach. He'll have a good game plan worked up for TL Hand. I think Westside wins this one in a close one tomorrow night, John.
I agree. I'm going to go Westside. They've had some things go their way this year, whereas Hannah's had some things go against them this year. I think tomorrow goes the same way.
Yeah, this next game we're going to get to is one that Rashodi actually just commented on, and that's Hartsville-Wilson tomorrow night. A couple weeks ago, John, maybe 3 weeks ago, this game didn't look like much. Hartsville started off very poorly this year. Didn't have much of anything. Wilson had been almost awful, but they turned around. They beat Myrtle Beach last week. Hartsville's getting better. They've had a couple big wins lately. Who do you take in this matchup?
I'm going to go Wilson. I know Hartsville's been playing.
They're hot, John.
They're playing better, but I want Wilson to be really good again. Yeah. I like the colors. I like the logo. I like everything about Wilson. I want him to be good again. Maybe this is a game where they can really, really stamp coming back.
Mm-hmm. I'm gonna go Hartsville here. I think it's just hard to get up 2 weeks in a row if you're Wilson to kind of repeat that performance again. I'm gonna take the Red Foxes there. What about this one, John? This is one that kind of got scheduled late because of some cancellations, but I'm very intrigued by this matchup. This is Beaufort, one of your teams of the week earlier this year. They're traveling on the road to Carolina Forest tomorrow night, John.
Carolina Forest.
You think so? What? I thought you loved the Eagles. Come on, what happened?
I do love the Eagles, but Carolina Forest, I've been saying this. We've been giving them a little more love this year, but they're a team that we haven't been given enough credit to. We're talking about the defending. They went to the Lower State Championship last year to get knocked out by Dutch Fork. These guys are good. We give all this kudos to Fort Dorchester, and we talk about Somerville. We don't talk about Carolina Forest, but they are right there, and they're kind of. I feel like we kind of leave them out when we talk about the PD and Myrtle Beach and the Grand Strand. We're always talking about North Myrtle Beach and Myrtle Beach, the Seahawks. Carolina Forest has got it going on.
Yeah, I'm gonna pick them as well too. I think going up from 3A to 5A is just such a big jump for Beaufort to make that. I think it is 3A to 5A, correct? Or are they 4A? I think they're 3A, correct?
I believe that is correct. I know they used to be big.
I'm gonna take Carolina Forest as well. If you guys are watching, if you have some picks in the games, feel free to put them in the chat. We'll certainly mention you. I think Rashodi says Carolina Forest as well. I think he's right about that one. Got a couple more games here for you, John. And some of these maybe postponed. If y'all have seen that, let us know. There's new stuff rolling in every day. We can't keep up with it hardly. This game is a big matchup for playoff purposes here, John. This is Saluda and Newberry.
Very, very fun matchup there. I'm going to go Newberry. I think they bounce back after losing to Gray. A very, very close game, hard-fought game this past week. I think they bounce back. I think they beat Saluda.
Yeah, Saluda, they really laid an egg last Saturday in that game against oh my gosh.
Leesville,
correct? Yes. They got absolutely demolished. I'm going to take Newberry as well because of that. Next one, some smaller schools here, John. Blackfield Hilda and Williston Elka. I'm going to go Blackfield Hilda personally.
I think Blackfield Hilda is a little bit better.
Yeah,
I Blackfield
so Hilda as well. I'm going to go with those. What else do we have here? Anything else? Myrtle Beach, South Florence is also going on tomorrow night, John. Anything there? South Florence hasn't had the best season. They've been a little bit down. Myrtle Beach is going to be out looking for blood after that loss last weekend, I think.
Yeah, this is a bad time to run into the Seahawks. South Florence, I can't put my finger on a season or a year. South Florence was really good. I think this is a game Myrtle Beach takes out some frustration.
Yeah. Another game that I'm kind of looking forward to, John. The running back just got named to the Mr. Football list, and that's Orangeburg Wilkinson versus May River. I'm taking May River here behind Ahmad Green.
Yeah, I'm going May River too. They've quietly had a really good season so far this year.
Yep. Got some comments from Rashad. He said Myrtle Beach, Blackfield, Newberry. I agree with him there. One more big one here, John, and then we'll get out of here. Berkeley and Somerville. This is kind of an intriguing matchup to me here between those two teams down in the Low Country.
I'm going to go Berkeley. I think that could be a really, really good game. But I'm going to go Berkeley.
Yeah, I'm going to go the other way with Somerville this time. They played well against Fort Dorchester last week. They blew the lead late, but they had the lead, which not many people do against Fort Dorchester. So I'm going to go with them to get this victory tomorrow night. Somerville, that's a program we'd love to see them get very good again. I'd love to see them get good. They've had a couple of down years. I'm going to take them to win tomorrow night. I think that's all the games I've got on here, John. A couple of these have been postponed already, like Greer Bowling Springs, et cetera, et cetera. I think North Augusta and Strom Thurman also postponed. That would have been a good one, but that's not going to happen now. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. If you're just tuning in now, obviously you can start the show over once we're done and watch it from the beginning, or we're going to put it on YouTube. We're going to put the podcast version out on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify. Appreciate you tuning in, though, on Facebook. Set up your notifications. Hit the little bell button up here so you'll know when we go live tomorrow and next week. We like to do our preview shows usually on Wednesday or Thursday, looking into that Friday night game. Next week, the last week of the season before playoffs start, which is kind of sad, but, at least we've had football, John.
Yeah, and hey, playoffs are going to be an absolute blast.
Yeah, we're going to hit the cream of the crop, with two teams going per region. It's going to be a madhouse here down the stretch to get those final spots. But like I said, Movin Chains on Twitter and Instagram, Movin the Chains on Facebook. We'll be live tomorrow night, probably around 10:30, 11, to recap all of our games, including our games of the week, which were Dutch Fork, South Pointe, Palmetto, Wren, Gray Collegiate, Oceanside Collegiate, and Byrnes and Dorman. You don't want to miss that. If you guys go to a game tomorrow night, send us some pictures, send us some comments on Facebook and Twitter. Let us kind of know, what you're seeing, keep us up to date with everything. And certainly tune in tomorrow night during the show and give us some thoughts as well. I know this week has been a little bit of a weird preview show with John and I doing the Zoom thing here, but I think it turned out okay. We seem to get some decent feedback, so hopefully it wasn't too bad for you guys. John, anything you want to add before we get out of here tonight?
Yeah, I want to call on everybody to give me some advice.
Uh-oh.
So I will be chasing the little white ball tomorrow afternoon in Camden. So I'm going to be making my way from Camden back to the upstate, Camden back to Simpsonville tomorrow. Right now, I'm kind of feeling the Camden Lakewood game over at Zip Stadium in Kershaw County. But hey, you guys let me know if there's a game between Camden and Simpsonville that you think I should hit up. Let me know. Let me know.
Maybe, he's up for whatever. He's up for whatever.
I don't make decisions very quickly, very decisively. So you guys sell me on some good games, and maybe I'll go somewhere else. But as of right now, I might go to the Camden game, Camden Lakewood.
Okay. Camden, another Mr. Football finalist at running back for them. So he'd be a great player to watch for sure. But if you guys have a suggestion for John, let him know, and he may swing by. You never know where you might find him tomorrow night.
And let me know what the concessions are like. I am very interested.
That's always a big sell for John. But for John Epps, I'm Kevin Thomas. Thank you guys for tuning in tonight. We appreciate you being patient with us, having issues at first, but we think it went okay. And thank you guys for tuning in, and we will see you hopefully tomorrow night.